The West and Ireland, as part of the European Union, has tried to starve Russia's war machine of cash since it invaded Ukraine 3 years ago. The EU imposed sanctions. It stopped European ports from accepting almost all Russian oil, banned seaborne crude oil imports from Russia, imposed a low price cap on Russian oil, and even barred EU companies from insuring or shipping Russian oil sold above the price cap. The US and the UK did something similar. Russia needs to make money from its oil exports to fund its war, so it began reshaping its energy trade map. To do it, it uses a so-called shadow fleet. The shadow fleet is a large network of tankers that carry sanctioned Russian oil. They may be Russian flagged or may not. The vessels use risky and deceptive practices, including turning off location transponders or falsifying paperwork to try and obscure the oil's origin or destination. All this is to circumvent Western sanctions and sell the oil at higher prices to get money to fund Russia's war aims.
The problem is that these vessels are difficult to interdict. They are clearly part of the circumvention effort. In some cases, they have no insurance. In some cases, their crew are of doubtful provenance where their qualifications are concerned, and they represent for many people an environmental threat as much as anything, because many of them are at the end of their shelf lives and would otherwise be scrapped. The Russians are putting them to use to try and sell their oil to third parties to get around the sanctions.
These ships are often uninsured and invisible to maritime radar, but they pass through the waters Ireland is responsible for patrolling, crossing numerous globally important subsea cables. The question has been, how often? The Defence Forces doesn't comment on its operational processes other than to say it maintains a continuous presence and vigilance within Ireland's maritime domain. Logs from the Irish Coast Guard show it picked up signals of 4 Russian-sanctioned vessels passing through Ireland's exclusive economic zone between January and May. Each turned off its transponder for periods while off the west coast. However, Windward, a commercial maritime intelligence company which uses satellite imagery and AI to monitor shadow fleets, estimates there were 465 visits by 245 vessels so far this year. 72 were sanctioned vessels. Some flew under the Russian flag, others registered in countries with lax oversight to try and disguise ownership. Under European law, they have the right to pass through key parts of the EEZ if they have the correct insurance.
They can do whatever they want in your EEZ, legally at least, okay, and go about it. However, in the last month or two, we're seeing the UK and the EU take a voluntary approach of questioning vessels who are transiting on the radio and ask for their insurance coverage and other safety parameters. Because the one thing you do not want in Ireland is an oil spill.
Sanctions were supposed to hit Russia's war coffers, but the money kept coming in. Russia exported nearly 8 million barrels per day in 2021. It only dipped slightly 3 years later in 2024. Russia successfully diverted supplies elsewhere via the shadow fleet. Instead of the European Union buying the oil, the likes of India, China and Turkey just replaced their orders. So, is there anything Ireland can do here when it comes to the shadow fleet? More money is promised to boost capability. Ireland is getting a new radar and sonar system. A recruitment drive is also underway to try and boost desperately needed numbers in the Defence Forces. But the man who spearheads those EU sanctions questions whether Ireland is doing enough to address this shadow fleet and says the country needs to step up when it comes to capability.
Well, I mean, look, Jackie, you then get into, let's be honest, the poor shape of our naval service and the fact that we don't have at the moment the vessels to kind of show the flag and to show that we are watching and surveilling. I emphasize that I think in the exclusive economic zone there would in any event be limits to what the naval service could do. But obviously this pleads yet again for our vulnerability to this kind of activity, to the risks to undershore cables, undersea cables, and the fact that we really need to beef up our capacity to patrol and police our territorial waters. This is obviously a new imperative to which Ireland will have to respond. I think the Irish Naval Service is simply not equipped to be able to deal with this at the present time.